Okay, today on the Income Flip, I have Marina Morgan, who's all the way from California, right next to San Francisco. Marina, thank you so much for joining the Income Flip podcast.
Thank you, Rob, for having me today. It's really excited.
Well, I'm excited to have this conversation because, as I was sharing with you before we jumped on, like I'm fascinated about human performance, the psychology of business as a sport. I was actually a psych major. I didn't tell you this, but I was a psych major in college. And one of the reasons why I became a psych major in college was because I wrestled competitively, right? Division One in college. And I remember on that journey, as I was developing as a an elite athlete, right? At one point, I was an elite athlete. You know, mindset and your thoughts and how you approach the world means everything, right? And I read a book called Psycho Cybernetics when I was in high school, and that was my first realization that like my thoughts become things. I can visualize what I want, and it's an old book, right, written by a psychologist. I forget his name now, but it's why like I ended up becoming a psych major and then ended up going into business. And so today it looks like there's a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about because I'm fascinated with your background. And so why don't you give us a little snippet currently about what you do currently, and then I'm going to go back in time to how you arrived to what you're currently doing. So share with our Income Flip audience what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rob, for this question. And as well as all of us have some kind of psychological background, let's try not to be boring for our listeners. I mean,
That's right.
not dive deep in all this, professional language, etc. So, briefly, right now I'm running an agency in Silicon Valley, the Morgan Impact, and I provide in myself and our services like a partnership that we are creating with our clients. And my responsibility in this partnership is everything about the people in my client's business. We have three main services. First one is the one-to-one in-person coaching for the business leaders, entrepreneurs, founders, C-level managers, etc. The next is facilitation of the board members, meeting, conversation, strategic design, or something like that. Of course, we work like personal coach with the manager inside the company, but mostly I'm working with the founders. And the last one is developing of some kind of training and development programs for employees. It can be sales, hard skills, soft skills. It can be some kind of educational workshop, mostly around the topic that I'm focused on. The combining of business strategies, neurophysiology, and business psychology, business behavior, organizational behavior, I mean. It can be some workshop, as I told, some seminars, and something like that. I have a huge network of the partners through all over the world, and I can engage them to create the best solution that will work for my clients. So something like that. And also I have two main field of interest right now. One of the direction that I can name like research and development. We are developing AIQ. This is the framework that measuring the readiness of the company to AI integration through the psychological aspect. Because right now we have a lot of different way how we can measure it through the business structure, processes, budget, whatever it is, technical stuff. But not through the people. And we already know that people can be the main obstacle, to dive deep into this AI revolution that we're experiencing right now. And also, I have some kind of philanthropic field of interest. And not so long time ago, I joined the nonprofit organization that supports New York City Opera as a strategic partner in strategic development. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Marina, how long have you had this particular business now? When did you start the Morgan Impact?
I started this business when I moved to Silicon Valley from Russia more than 3 years ago.
What brought you from Russia to Silicon Valley?
It's a pretty great question. So, in Russia, I had a pretty successful corporate career. combined with entrepreneurial experience, like a lot of us, when you spend some time in a huge company doing some job there, pretty interesting, and then you decided that you need this freedom and this entrepreneurial, experience. You're firing, opening something yours. So I worked as a head of talent and development department for a long time in the biggest technological companies in Russia. And one day I found myself working in the top position in the biggest technological company. We had 300,000 employers, and my responsibility was to create the programs, educational and training programs for all levels of the employees in the organization that can bring some income for the company. That was my responsibility. And it engaged salespeople, product managers, vice presidents, boards, whatever you can imagine, developers, all of them. And my responsibility was to create some huge program that will transform our people and to prove that the thing that I'm doing brings some money to our company, and I was able to do it. So I found myself in this position, and I'm sure right now that I have some kind of entrepreneurial mindset and some new challenges, some new big picture. This is my fuel, and I found that I can find a new goal, because on the previous step, working in the biggest company in the top position was my big goal. And as well as I worked in the technological industry for a long time, we had a lot of connection with the Silicon Valley, with Google, Meta, Netflix professional here, and I created a very interesting project. It was before all this political situation. It was in 2020, next after COVID, and before all this stuff started. So, and I have some project here in Silicon Valley, and I came here. It was my first time, not first time in the United States, but first time here in California. And I was really impressed with the people, with the atmosphere, with the entrepreneurial and innovative freedom. And I felt something like I belong to this place, and I just need to try to do something by my own here. So I came back home, announced that I quit, bought one-way tickets, moved, and probably if you're a native American citizen, probably you don't know it, but you have a long period when you are working with your documents and you're unable to work here officially. And I had pretty challenging and interesting period that I working on my documents and finding a way to open my business here as fast as possible, but it's not pretty interesting. So that was my reason. I just want to do a next step that will inspire me.
You climbed the corporate ladder, you saw what you saw, and you're like, I've got this itch I want to scratch, and so I'm going to leave, cross the ocean to a completely new place, because it felt like it was the right thing, and you have a dream. Like it's that entrepreneurial journey. I always say, like, it's the walking into the abyss, and you're not quite sure what you're gonna do. And so it sounds like you've combined all of your background, right? And you know that you can add value to founders, right? I'm curious, what is typically the stumbling block that you see? Because I believe that success leaves clues. There's patterns. You probably see some of these things over and over again. That might be either stumbling blocks for founders, blind spots, or maybe another way to put it is, what are some of the most common challenges you see of founders who are growing and running companies, and how do you help serve them?
Absolutely, it's a really great question. So it depends on the stage of the business, and it depends on their how can I say that? Probably the scale of the organization, because this is different expectations and requests from somebody who just trying to ground the business, or, for example, in the first steps of investments phase, because people at this moment of their life, they request more resilience, some support in negotiation skills with the investor in the pitching, some help with the hiring talent of people because you don't have enough resources for that, and you need to balance, between the salary that you can pay for these people, their talents, and you also pivoting pretty fast, and you should be flexible. Your processes should be, from the one side, flexible. From another side, you should be ready for the scale in this phase. If we're speaking about later stage businesses or entrepreneurs who already have a long-term stable business and they don't have some problems with the money, and they already know that they will have money and they will have enough money or another or some other actives like real estate or something like that, they started thinking about absolutely other things, like what value I can bring to the reality, or I need to develop my business, but I feel boring, for example, and I feel unmotivated. Sometimes I waking up and thinking, probably I should close all this stuff and start with something new. So it's just an example, but there are different requests. And if we're speaking about the first group of my clients that right now just running their new businesses, opening, pivoting, this is pretty typical entrepreneurial, drive, entrepreneurial journey. And here we work in more through the neurophysiological approach, building their resilience, because people typically not thinking about that, but the reality is that our neurophysiological condition is the first, and the way how we explain ourselves, what we experience and what we feel, is the second part. What's I mean? If, for example, you feel nervous or frustrating or something like that, it doesn't mean that this outside situation stressed or frustrated you. That means that you have, for example, too much cortisol in your system, and if you will reduce it and you know how to do it, you will feel calm. And the same circumstances that can be really pretty stressful, but you will experience them and feel them in absolutely another way, and you will be able to find a great solution to change the situation, or to find the best way of resolve this problem. And from another hand, if you are not in a good condition, even in the perfect circumstances, you will unable to use them, just because when for a long time we are living in this survival mode. What's I mean when I'm speaking about survival mode? You're under the stress, you don't sleep enough, you are not eating well, you just overwhelming yourself with the thoughts. What will I do? How will I pay? What should I say to the investors? Or you're pretty tired. Even then you find yourself in the perfect circumstances. This survival mode of our body, it's not about create something. It's more about how I can quit, how I can escape from this awful situation. Because for our body, this is awful situation. And if we feel if you have a lot of cortisol, for example, that's mean that this is some damage for our life, and you need to go away from this as soon as possible. But probably in reality, you're just sitting in front of your computer and preparing for conversation. So we work in this way. Another part of it is the grow mindset, because our modern reality is about you don't have any stability, and just stop expect it, because everything changing dramatically every day. I mean, if we're speaking about business strategies, and we should, in my opinion, forget about our understanding is what strategic planning is. Because when I started my career, we really created the plan for 5 years or 10 years, and we just follow this KPI that we have. Right now, it's absolutely irrelevant. You should be able to recreate your strategic approach probably every day. And biggest technological and companies here in Silicon Valley, they already living in this approach, and they don't have a strategy for a year. They have some some benchmarks and analyzing a huge amount of the data, and we're having access to this data right now because we are using AI tools. But you should organize the processes in this way. There you can be very flexible. And next aspect of that is the differences between the entrepreneurial mindset and the manager's mindset. I mean, all our employers, because we right now have a lot of different research that approve that entrepreneurs have another nervous system and brain, and that's what make us. And you shouldn't expect the same the same perception of the life from your employers, because they have another brain, they have another nervous system, and you should be patient for them, and you should just understand it. And I think this is top of my work. When entrepreneurs come to me and say, I don't know what to do. I know that I need to pivot, but they don't want to follow that. They don't trust me. I'm frustrated. What should I do? Can you please fix them somehow? This is really this is really part of the request. So here my responsibility is to create probably some new processes for the strategic session with all the board members and the founder, and to explain the founder this difference and to create some new approach of their communication. Typically, as a professional in human resources and with person with a psychological background, probably you know that business owners mostly don't really want to speak about relationship part, about communications, because this is not their priority, not their focus. They're thinking about absolutely different things: strategic planning, KPI, selling, I don't know, some business development, scaling. But this psychological relationship part, it's not pretty, clear for them. And invite some kind of professional here can be a really great solution, just to reduce this tension that exists between you and your team, or between your team members, and create the space there they can openly speak about what's going on, what should we change, what emotions we have right now about everything that's going on. And sometimes when this is not somebody from your company, but some outside professional, like me, for example, it can be really more safety, because all this, association with this bad moment will be with this person, but not with somebody inside your company. Okay.
Marina, can I translate a little bit for the podcast for my listeners, right? And I want to kind of filter this through a little bit of the journey that I've gone through, but also maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I realized that there's all these patterns that happen with business owners and entrepreneurs, and we created this framework called the 7 levels of freedom. And level 1 was always about energy, mindset, and identity, right? And that if those weren't in place, that the entrepreneur, the business owner, could start building stuff only to hit some of these, what I would call bad health habits, which then would suck down the business, right? Their cortisol is completely out of control because they're not taking care of their health, right? And so I know personally, as I went through this journey and continue to go through this journey, I've had to find ways to manage that level of stress, which is very normal, right, for people. And I found that yoga for me was one of the ways to actually do it. I don't know what it was. Like I started developing this thing where my hands would sweat before I would pick up a phone call. Like it was almost like I was like on this fight or flight mode. And I was like, wow. And by the way, this is like 10 years into this, maybe. Like I'm used to this kind of stress. Why is my body now reacting this way as I've gotten older, right? Like why are my hands sweating? And I just realized that I think I was in this perpetual like fight or flight mode for so long that I just didn't even like realize it. And then my body was reacting, and the way I learned to kind of like equalize that was through exercise and proper diet and proper sleep, right? And how all those things helps create productivity, right? Because you're right, the entrepreneur, the business, like we're always thinking about what's the next pivot, what's the next sale, what's the next opportunity. So we live in this like future like type of mode. And I always said, the thing that launches a business owner, an entrepreneur, can also break the people around you if they're not ready for the journey, because your future and you're pushing and you're not noticing that the people around you might be breaking, right, because of your drive. And as a business owner, I had to learn, slow it down. Sometimes slowing down means speeding up, right? How to manage and regulate my level of stress and cortisol in the business, right? And And if you're listening to this, like, this is incredibly helpful because you might be on the journey and you might be going through this and being like, hey, why am I experiencing this? It's very normal for founders to be going through different degrees of this. And what I hear you saying, Marina, is many times bringing in a third party like you that can help explain what's happening, right? From us, from a clinical perspective, but also from being able to see and observing other businesses and other founders. You can help kind of level the playing field because sometimes as the entrepreneur, they're saying it one way and the children hear it and they're like, oh, here's dad speaking, all over again. And you have to bring in a third party to create kind of like almost like a level set of what the game looks like at the new stage that everybody's at. And so we believe in we've brought in people like you to talk to our company about managing anxiety within like our sales force, right? We're so driven on KPIs and numbers, and we realize, hey, there's some mental health issues that are happening within our sales division. Like, what's happening? Seems to be kind of common. And so we brought in somebody to talk about like, really just kind of like proximity to the problem and having to learn how to create some space between that and your life. And so there was these tools that were given. And so just like athletes, by the way, athletes go through the same process too. So I love what you're saying, right? I think anybody that's building anything can really experience what you're laying down, Marina, because it's incredibly valuable, right? So it sounds like there comes a stage, that third level that you get a lot of requests from, where the entrepreneur is like their go, and they're like, why can't people see it? Or why, like, can you just help them can you fix them, Marina? Because there's a problem with them, not me, right? How do you help somebody through that process? I'm curious. Right.
Oh, I can share one case that I have if you
Sure.
if you want. So it was the request from the business owner. They had pretty successful company. They had the TechCrunch publication as the best in the industry. Don't want to share the industry, but trying to be, more incognito. And the market changed, and they need to pivot in absolutely another direction. And he's when you're saying about the entrepreneur thinking about the future, about the big picture in the future, this is because entrepreneurs have more sensitive dopamine system, and we are typically increasing the level of the dopamine in our body, to feel this inspiration. And I am absolutely the same. So he was typical entrepreneur, very drive, very fast, very open to the risk. That stressed his financial director regularly. So, and he told that we had a pretty tough year, market change, as I told, and they they laid off more than half of the employees in their company, and you can imagine what was the condition of his board members. And he told, can we do something because I want I see that they have some tense between them, and I need they just close this book and open the new chapter of our business, because I know them, they're amazing professionals, they're a great team, but we will not develop this business anymore. They will go in new direction. So, and the fact was that my client, the founder of this business, on this year, he had a pretty tough periods. He had a depression, he had problems in his family, he was pretty close to divorce, and as well as his business was pretty big already. He had a CEO, he didn't dive too deep into what's going on there. Probably he had some kind of one time per 3 months meeting with his board members. And he thought that he is not influenced in what's going on in his business. So, and I had a brief interviews with his board members, and then we created the series of something like meetings with all of them that I facilitated. And one of the tasks that they did was to create some kind of a timeline, and all of them should put on this timeline some stickers with the most emotional moments on this year, from the negative and from the positive side. I mean, most positively emotional and most negatively emotional. And that was my what was the step that I wanted to do, and the next step was to discuss it, what's going on, how they experienced it, etc. And we had this dynamic. And then, as well as I worked with this business owner, and I absolutely knew that it was total reflection of his dynamic that he experienced for this year. At the same time, in spite he didn't have any connection with his team at that moment, but somehow it works. So, and
Yeah, they feel it. They
feel
feel
it.
it.
And do you want it or you don't want, business owner or co-founder team is the source of organizational culture in the company. You don't want it or you want it, but we have a lot of resources to prove it. And your influence for your company, for your people, even if you're pretty far from your business, because you are the source of all of it. And this is the request that typically exists in the later stages of the organization or in the big companies. And I have a lot of different interesting cases here about the motivation of the business owner, etc. But in this case, I tried to explain it to him, and he believed me. But I can say that he can hear me, but he didn't, can understand what does it mean. And then we analyzed the results of the session. I came to him, I showed him this picture and asked him, do you see something similar? Probably. And then the work was started with him. And with team was everything okay. We just need to prepare how we will provide this change for them. But the main moment was understanding of his influence for this. In general, to answer for your question, there are really several differences that entrepreneurial brain have with non-entrepreneurial brain. For example, entrepreneurs have more active prefrontal cortex. That means it's much more easy for us to see different opportunities, to create new solutions, just because we're pretty fast in it. Another aspect is dopamine system sensitiveness. And for us, this moment when you achieve your goal, it's experienced much more stronger, with much more stronger pleasure than for common people. Of course, all of them feel this enjoyment too, but we are much more sensitive to that, and that's why we're highly motivated by the results, by the achievement, and by this big picture. And another aspect is I will try not to be pretty boring. So we have part of the brain, the name of this is nucleus accumbens, and we have prefrontal cortex. And nucleus accumbens, this area, I try to be more simple here, responsible for, so anyway, connection between these two zones help us to see a lot of different opportunities to solve the problem that we're facing with right now. And in entrepreneurial brain, there are probably 20 times more connection between these two areas. And non-entrepreneurial brain is not so much. What's that mean? When this this path, this pivot is absolutely obvious for you, it's not obvious for your people, and they need time to rising up, to growing up this new connection. You just need to give them this time, and give this time for yourself, not to feel frustrated, because those fact that your people don't see this picture, don't understand it, don't inspiring with that in this way, that doesn't mean that they're bad, not innovative, don't trust you, don't hear you. This means that their brain work in another way, and you just should need to understand it, and to have some patience here. And also, guys, if to be honest, most entrepreneurs is very open into risk, not because they are only brave people. Of course, all of us pretty brave, I agree with that, but because our brain working too fast, and sometimes we're unable to count the risk. And this is, a blessing and curse as always. And it's great that in your team you have some kind of trusted advisor. It can be your financial director or your co-founder who will balance you. And that's how you can find the best solution. Because sometimes I have a lot of clients whose most passion is to open your business, because this is the best part of the game. You're planning, you're great, you're on this mood, and again, it's because you're pretty sensitive to drawing this picture, and you feel this unmotivated status, stuck, boring, when you're already realize it, and you need to support this stability. It's not very interesting, if to be honest, and you need to have somebody in your team who will be pretty fascinated about keep this stability on the track. So, brief answer for your question. It's always pretty personal, like an example that I told to you, because it depends on what's the relationship between the co-founder, because the relationship between the co-founders reflected for the relationship between the board members and team members. But the main thing that you need to understand, that your brain works differently, and you should just know it, and you should understand who you are, what's your reality, and what's the reality of your people, and to just develop your communicational strategy with them based on this understanding. And for me, it's enough pretty short conversation with any person to understand what's the way of thinking of this person, because as a professional in this field, I see how the brain works. And then, for example, you are discussing something and you feel that some emotions rising up. I really can see how the dopamine, jumping right now in the whole day, and how it's work. So, like this.
It's interesting when you're, to translate it to our language, within my business, we talk about the empire builder and the empire protector. Like every empire builder needs an empire protector. Right, because you need somebody that's there saying, "Hey, Rob, proceed with caution. Like I know you want to do that, but are you sure you want to do that? Right? Let's evaluate that risk. This is what it actually means. Right? The entrepreneur can feel frustrated, right?
Yeah.
Through that process, because it feels like it's slowing them down. They want to go fast, yet experience over time, they realize, wait a second. I can't go fast by myself. I need to go fast with others as well. So, let's go back. Let's recalibrate. Let's have those conversations with everybody to move everybody forward in a direction, right? So it takes, I've always thought of it as, you're talking about it at a very chemical level. I've always thought of it as very EQ versus IQ. Like, having a deep understanding of you, right, as the person, like a real self-assessment of yourself.
Me, George, yeah.
Me, George, right, and then having a really deep understanding of others on this journey that are with you, and that you all come at it from different perspectives, different backgrounds, different lenses, right, and how do you move everybody forward in that process? It's certainly something that I've had to learn, right, along the way. In fact, probably tied so much to relationships and marriages and things like that as well, right? Like in the DISC spectrum, I'm a DI, and my wife is a complete opposite, right? She's an SC, right? And she's kind of like the balance of us. So fascinating. It sounds like one thing that you said, and I want to take us there, is that we're living through a very transformative time right now, and some people don't understand with what's happening in business. Like, as a business owner, I'm like, oh my God, things are going to look so different 2 years from now, a year from now, because of what's happening with AI. And are we prepared? Are we, how are we going to manage this? It is so rapid, so fast, and so different that I'm preparing myself psychologically, right, to kind of take us on this journey. And I'd love to maybe get some insight from you, right, because you're like at ground zero in Silicon Valley with what's happening.
Absolutely. That's why I started to develop the AIQ, because I see that this is a problem, and that people don't really understand how they can manage this process. Because honestly, those expectations that we have right now from the leaders is inappropriate. We didn't have some period in the economy like this in the past. So,
this is completely new.
This is completely new, and Of course, we can rely on some strategies how you can integrate the innovations, but the reality is that these innovations is pretty new. Why? Because in the past we have some kind of the time gap between, and it was slowly. I mean, slowly from our perspective. You know that this technological revolution, it probably took 10, 15, maybe 20 years for different industries, because it starts with the technological companies like, I don't know, Google, Meta, or everything that we have here in Silicon Valley. And then industry to industry companies started to integrate these technologies. And right now, all the companies, doesn't matter, it's retail, constructor business, I don't know, manufacturing business, all of them are technological. They have their tech professional, their platforms, their automatized business processes, etc. But we had a time. Right now, we don't have this time, because all the industries, all the businesses dramatically changing just right now at that moment. And the thing that was relevant one day ago, it's absolutely relevant. For example, probably 1 month ago, there were in news about the company that produced robots, and they have a huge contract with the BMW. And right now, BMW replacing part of their team for the robots that will work, in their in their factories. So, and you should just understand it. And here in San Francisco, more than 1 year and a half, we have self-drive taxi, the Waymo, my favorite one. I love it. And so we don't have this time, and we don't have those patterns that we can integrate for our business. Like, for example, in the past, we can do based on some kind of technological company's experience. And leaders right now, they need to be professional in creating absolutely another, work atmosphere, culture, processes. Briefly. My AIQ model oriented for two groups of the people, I mean employers and the business leaders. And we right now digging pretty deep in different research that exists. And the main thing that I found right now is that there is a huge correlation between the results of AI integrations and level of expectation. And as low as your expectations are, as more resultative will be the AI integration. And this new, and it's really pretty interesting, because the main recommendation, like in all the change that you can experience in your business and life, is to be as much open as possible to what's going on. Why it is so? Because when we have, what is expectation about? Everywhere, not only in this field. It's about our try to take something under control, because expectation is some kind of the planning. I know how it will look like. I want that it will look like in this way. I can predict it, and that's how I, take it under control. But the reality is that when we're facing this something pretty new, we need this expectation, because something new, some unpredictable, is not pretty safety for our brain. And that's why we try to count what will be in the future. And if you don't have the things that you've drawn up in your head, you're pretty feel frustrated and probably some fear sometimes. It's like in the relationship and friendship and in the business as well. And these things is absolutely new. It requires new patterns, new neuroplasticity, new version of your interaction with the system. And that's why if you don't have any expectation, you open like a child for this, and you start your integration with some kind of playing the game, or doing something creative. It's become much more easy to develop these skills for the team. And that's why my recommendation is to cultivate this open mind culture in your company, in your team, if you're a manager, for example. And if you need to develop these skills in your team members, start with understanding what will be pretty interesting for them. For example, probably your accountant in your team wanted to dream to be a designer or created some videos or something like that, and you should suggest the services to support their creative desire, or just to play some game. Let's create some story. Let's probably create some TV show script. I mean, it will be much more easier than to start with some kind of the business tasks, business goal with KPIs, because it's stressful at all. I mean, it's absolutely new system, and I understand it. Here in Silicon Valley, honestly, I'm living in the bubble because everyone around me using it, doing it, and it's fact. One of my friends, they developing the AI agent, and their idea is to replace all the employees that small business need. And from idea to the launch for one day, this is their goal, and they create the AI agent who will be able to replace everyone that you need. I mean, social media manager, salesperson for the small businesses. And they found very interesting thing because AI agent is the combination of different AI tools in one algorithm that you need to achieve your goal, and it can be a lot of different steps that engage different AI tools, and you just push one button and you have the result and all the magic happening inside of the AI agent. And they found very fun fact that then at 9 o'clock in the morning in California, most of these AI tools started to work worse than in another time. This means that the main users of these AI tools is people who live here in the Bay Area. They, spend all the energy and
all the energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned, I'm right now working with New York City Opera, and a couple of weeks ago I was in New York City, and I joined a lot of different events for the wealthiest people of the Manhattan, as you can imagine, because this area is for these people, this culture supporters. This is very expensive, thing, and that's why typically there are a lot of people from real estate, from other businesses, and most of them don't know anything about this AI stuff. I mean, they heard something, and I spoke with the one guy. He's a head of hedge fund that developing businesses in manufacturers, and I asked, what do you think about the robots? What's your planning? Will you change the strategy? And he said, what? I mean, that doesn't mean that he don't know something about it. This means that it's irrelevant information right now, but this is already the reality in that I'm living. So coming back to the point, the low expectation, be open for whatever it is can happen with you. Start with the playing with some pleasure things, something that you probably want to do a long time ago when you didn't have enough time for that. You can create music, you can create video, you can write some text, you can, I don't know, work with your photos, whatever it is. The next thing, do you want it or you don't want it? As a business leader, you should be the role model for your employees. And if you don't know what's going on the market and what right now AI industry suggests to the business, how you will provide it to your team? No, you don't have this. You don't have this options. And there are a great source, in my opinion, the Future Tools. This is a guy who collected all the products that exist on the market right now, and it's categorized for the business purposes. For example, social media, content creation, client management, CRM, whatever it is. And you just click in and find all the cool AI solution that exists right now, and try to play with it. I'm working with it by myself. Another one, I'm using several of them. For example, Perplexity. I'm in the program of Perplexity Fellowship for the business owners. I'm right now in it, and I think it will take more couple months. And this is their main idea is to replace the Google. And honestly, they're successful with that idea. Just think about it. You can just imagine something like that. But they want to change the pattern of searching the information, and right now they're working on it, that people don't go to the Google, they go to Perplexity and ask, hey Perplexity, can you find me whatever it is? And they're pretty good in working with the different sources. So just trying to do the things that you're interested in.
It's interesting because everything is about a frame, right? It's perspective. I was like, this is going to change everything. And so you could have a tone that's like, oh my God, this is going to change everything. It's going to disturb everything. And then I'm like, oh no, wait a second. This is going to change everything, right? Like, this is like, you look at it from a positive perspective, right? So it's like, I started thinking of all the possibilities of what could happen, and you're either going to be, you're already kind of late to the party if you're not somehow playing with it, doing it, because it is going to change everything, right? And if you could see the good of what it will do, as a business owner, it's like adapt or die, in my opinion. It's Darwinism, right? It's like it's adapt or die, but look at it through a frame of like, hey, this is, I just started thinking, well, there's going to be roles within our business that will just eliminate complete jobs, right? And and people will have to pivot, just like they had to pivot during the Industrial Revolution and during the Internet age, and that's okay. That is just part of life's pivot, right? But if your pivot doesn't pivot, if your business doesn't pivot fast enough, there is no business, right?
You will die. It's the reality.
Yeah.
Your business will not exist. You don't like it or you don't like it. If you will not right now dive deep in what's going on here, your business
You will
will
die, 100%.
And this is the reality. Again, I don't want to be, pretty emotional here, but
Yeah.
this is the reality. And for I read a lot of research here, and also as well as I work with these people who are creating this technology and using this technology, I really can see what's going on. And I'm right now in this future where if you don't, if you don't really good in it and you don't understand what's going on, your business will not exist. I mean, you will not work with a small market or something like that. Your business will not exist.
Yeah, it just won't exist. It was interesting. I remember having dinner with the CEO of the parent company. Like we have what part of our business is a real estate agency business, and so we have a broker, and that broker is very, he built the first virtual brokerage company in the world. It's EXP, right? And he's very big in the AI. And I remember when I was making the move from my traditional brick and mortar brokerage to a virtual Amazon type of brokerage, I started talking a lot about blockchain. I was like, I think blockchain is going to change everything. And he said, Rob, yes. But he's like, but what is going to happen, what's happening with AI right now, it will be people who don't use AI will work for people that use AI. Mm-hmm. And so it's a speed to that, right? And so I would just encourage you to go deep on that within your business and think about how you can just stay ahead of the curve. So I'm like, okay, it's let's look at it as an opportunity as opposed to a threat. So if you're in here and you're building, whether it's a construction business, title business, mortgage business, all these small businesses, right? There's so much that can be done now and automated with small business, and it'll help take down payroll costs. You have to look at it. It'll take down payroll costs. It'll increase efficiency. It'll happen like you wanted. That SOP will happen all the time, every single, right? Like in the CRM, with a proper follow-up. I was having a friend of mine, a conversation with a friend of mine that owns a marketing agency, and he's got people in Serbia and people so for a long time, a lot of people in his company were from Serbia, and then he realized, well, that can be limiting, right? Like that's a point of failure there. So he started hiring people all over the globe. And him and I were talking about what's happening right now with AI and how he's got, AI making sales calls. And he said, Rob, here's the deal. Like this window of being able to make calls with AI is only probably about a year, maybe 6 months, because then eventually everybody's going to do it and it won't be novel anymore. People may not even answer their phone after a while because of it, unless they're already programmed in their phone. So he's like, there's a small window to kind of capitalize on that sales piece of it. And I remember having that thought a couple weeks ago. And so anyhow, I don't know where I'm going with that, except for like, it's adapt or die.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And there is research from that World Economic Forum made about how the labor market will change, and the prognosis is for 2030 year, 1 million of professions and workplaces will not exist, but it will replace with 170 workplaces that AI industry will create.
Mm-hmm.
So we will have a plus 70 millions, but the reality is that you need to have, skills to take this place.
Well,
So
let's talk a little bit about that, and then we'll full circle it. So, the Future Tools is a place where somebody can go. Is it thefuturetools.com, by the way, or just
uh, just a sec, I will
sure?
check. If you will just put the future tools,
Google
you
that.
will find it.
Okay,
But
sure.
let me be clear. Um, futuretools.io.
.io. That's great. And then Perplexity. It sounds like you're going through some kind of program right now,
Yeah.
right?
Perplexity Business Fellowship. This is community for the business owners who are want to develop this industry, and this is something that I'm doing with AIQ and in my job.
That's awesome. And then I saw that Google came out with a certification as well, I'm sure for Gemini, right? You're starting to see them like trying to get people integrated into this quickly, right? So if you're a business owner right now and you've just been like, oh well, you know, I'll deal with that later. Later's now, right?
It's true.
Later's now, and here are some places that you can go. Do you have Marina? Do you have any other places, any other resources that could prove value?
Honestly, the perplexity can be a great guide in this thing, and it's pretty good in looking for some sources and analyze the sources, include the forums, everything. You just come in there and say, okay, this is me. I'm in this business. I need to understand what's going on in the industry. Can you please create a list of the best tools that can help me to, I don't know, whatever you want, develop strategy, create some CRM system, etc. And it will suggest you probably 20 different sources, and you can try all of them. You can also write there, I want some tools with a trial period, if you just want to try it for free. Or I want some tools that I can share with my team members, and you will find it pretty easy. So the AI can learn you to be really good in AI.
Marina, so you're essentially training to become a guide, right, for businesses in order to help them manage this. Because like I if I understand it correctly, that's what you're doing. Because they're like, I remember a few weeks ago being like, there needs to be a guide for business owners, like small business owners like us, to kind of go to be like, okay, how do I do this? Now, somebody told me the best place to get trained by AI is to go to AI and ask the AI, like
Yeah,
for
yeah,
that.
it's true. It's true.
Now that said, I definitely believe that there's going to be people that you're just going to have to like hold their hand, Marina, and say, okay, this is how we're going to guide your business through this transformation of how they're going to do the business, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, because that's also transforming conversations internally, right? There's people gonna, you're gonna have to displace within your business, and like that's gonna create some chaos, and people are gonna feel fear, and there's a right way to approach it and a wrong way to approach it, and so that's where somebody like you, again, Marina, could probably come in and help the entrepreneur figure out how to navigate all those conversations.
Absolutely. I can give a brief example here. I have a client. He has a business. He's not in United States, and he has a business on the market. There, it's pretty difficult to find a great professionals in those area that of his industry. And when we discuss this problem, and of course, as a early stage business, you don't have enough resources for that, for hire, pretty expensive employers. And I asked him, what do you think about replacing a couple of your team members? Not replacing, add some AI agents. And I found that he don't even know what it is. And working with the clients, I'm able to provide this, to provide these opportunities and to suggest different solutions, because I'm using it in my business. I'm working with the people who develop in these technologies, as I mentioned, for example. And right now, he created the AI agent that replaced a couple of his. I can say he didn't fire the employees. He just didn't have them because he wasn't able to find them on the market. And he worked with his team to integrate this artificial intelligence team member with with a human team member, and it's worked great for him, and it's much more cheap than
Yeah,
look for some. And
yeah,
this is the only way how his business can survive on the market. So Yes, I can suggest some solution. We can try to do something together, and of course, I can, together with a business owner, create the program that will help your employees step by step integrate the skills and start working in this amazing AI human collaboration.
Marina, if people want to get a hold of you, but what's the best way, right? Um, what's the best website? What's the best Instagram handle? We'll make sure that we put it in all the show notes. But just if somebody's listening right now, what's the best way to do it?
Absolutely. Thank you for this opportunity, Rob. So you can find me on my website, themorganimpact.com, and I have three half an hour strategic session for everyone where we can discuss where are you right now, what is your purposes, and the result of the session is to see the several way how you can achieve the goal and how you can come to the point that you want to come. So please go there and book the session, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Marina Morgan, San Francisco, and you will find me there.
Marina, that's awesome. I think this has been a really interesting episode of the Income Flip podcast because we have a lot of business owners that are thinking about, they might be in starting stages and they're thinking, how can I use AI to actually catapult me further? Or if they're running a larger business like ours, it's like, okay, how are we going to use AI to reduce our payroll cost and stay nimble in a changing world and economy? So right time, right message. Marina, thank you so much for joining us on the Income Flip podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much.